What's up guys, it's Drac and welcome to 2018. Yeah, we survived. A lot of awful stuff happened in 2017, but we made it. Here we are, 2018, new year, it's gonna be great. So, obviously since we survived 2017 and all of the garbage blasters that came with it, you know we had to make a top 5. Everybody's been asking me in the comment section, dear Drac, where is the top 5 best worst blasters? And now it's happening. So, let's get right into it. Starting off with the worst blasters of the year, because worst first rhymes and that's what we're doing. We have our honorable mention. Now, I don't actually have my honorable mention here, so imagine that I'm holding this blaster right now. Imagine how unwieldy and large it is, but also imagine how it's kind of cool looking and super post-apocalyptic. And that is, we are imagining the Dreadbolt right now. Now, the Dreadbolt fires those weird rebel arrows, and they're not great ammo. Now, the only reason this is on the worst list and not the best list is actually not even a design reason. It's oversized, it's really cool in terms of like its overall clunky operation and stuff. Like, it's a neat blaster and fits a very unique niche, and then it takes those rebel arrows and puts them into the Zombie Strike universe in a pseudo-practical way. I love the Dreadbolt from an aesthetics perspective. However, functionally it's egregious. It has so many locks that after you've fired the arrows once or twice, it's just almost impossible to get it to fire the first time. You have to fiddle with the locks. It's very difficult to modify, so it is. It's on our list as the honorable mention worst blaster. It has redeeming features, so it doesn't get a full number, but it's just not a great blaster, like, functionally. Now, I could forgive that, except it also cost 50 United States dollars, which makes it our Zombie Strike flagship for the year, incidentally, and this just wasn't a great year for Zombie Strike, ultimately. Now, the Dreadbolt looked really cool, but underperformed, and the thing that was affordable didn't look very cool at all, and we'll get to that later. But let's start in with number 5 on our list. Coming in at number 5, we have the Mega Double Breach. Now, it looked really good from this side and really bad from this side. So this is just an indicator of where we're at with Deco these days, and that Deco is really only a label to camera kind of thing as far as the mothership is concerned. But the Double Breach is our number 5 worst blaster of the year. It costs 25 United States dollars, and for that you got 2 shots of mega power, and not even like 2 good shots, nor semi-auto shots. You still had to pump twice between shots, so you'd have to pump, fire, and that's just not great. So even the reload on this was cumbersome, and that's not even getting into the ergo yet, but the reload was a 3-step process. You had to prime back, pull this door back, load, that's 3 steps, so I guess it's 4 really, and then push forward. And that, again, is only gonna give you the first shot. Then, to get your second shot, you have to prime back, forward, and fire. Now, it just wasn't that great in terms of its performance. It was a Mega Blaster, but it was a Mega Blaster that realistically, because of its smart AR system down that barrel, could not be singled for elites easily. So again, this is a blaster that was more expensive than what you could do for that money and performed worse. In addition to that, it's huge. It is a very thin blaster, but it was very long, which means that, like a lot of Mega Blasters, children have a hard time with this, and let's be honest, like if you're under the recommended age for this, and I can't actually find it on the blaster, and I don't remember what it was on the box, but like I've seen so many children struggle with breach systems on regular, like single breach systems, like the Falcon Fire and all of the Sharp Fire variants, that this was almost impossible for them to manage with any amount of dexterity. So it wasn't great for kids, and then adults didn't want it at all, so it wasn't good for enthusiasts, nor was it good for like anybody. This is a bad blaster. Now, it's not that bad, because at worst you were out 25 bucks, and the modifications for it made it perform a little bit closer to the kind of Mega that we were getting when this line was around. Like, the best Mega Blasters are still like the Thunderbow and the Mastodon. Now, the Mastodon's great because it's flywheel, and the Thunderbow's great because it actually hit 100 feet. This did neither of those things. So this was just a really like people have been saying forever, like, oh, we want a mega shotgun. And Hasbro's like, oh, we'll give you a mega shotgun. And they gave us a really good one this year in the twin shot, twin strike, twin Hasbro. Come on, guys. We're just going to take a second here. Figure out your nomenclature. Like, it is so difficult for me to keep track of 20 different blasters released in one year when they all have the same, like, adjective strike, adjective shot, adjective blast. Like, you're killing me. You also have reused names, so sometimes one name, like, is two blasters, like the Fury Fire. Like, come on, you're killing me. Anyway, this is our number 5 worst blaster. It's $25 well wasted, and I highly recommend you pass this one up even if you find it thrifting. It's not great for integrations. I jokingly have considered integrating it into other Mega Blasters, but again, there's just such a better Mega Shotgun out on the market that actually performs well that I can see no excuse to purchase a double breech as it stands right now. Maybe if you needed to side mount an integration, but again, you can only do it one direction because you still need access to this port. But that's our number 5. Let's move on into number 4. Before we get into our number 4, friends, what is the heaviest way to weigh 60 United States dollars? Well, I'll judge you if you do. It's this. Now, while you can pick it up for 50 right now, it did drop at 60 United States dollars. This is actually a toy designed with children in mind. Again, not designed with practical Nerf or sporting Nerf in mind. This is a humongous blaster, and in some ways it's a humongous mistake. It takes up a ton of shelf space. I don't know the formalities. All I know is what I've spoken to certain retailers about, but this takes up a lot of space, and it is a really weird value proposition next to other blasters. It's so expensive and so ungainly that, like, most children can't actually use it. I've joked about this, like me holding it out here, I will get tired doing this. Like, this is a two-hand blaster for anybody, and for some children it is a full body blaster. I've handed this to children under the age of 8 in the SENC, and it is like as large as their entire torso. They don't want to play with it, they don't want to carry it, they just kind of leave it wherever it is. Now, it does do something kind of neat. It has these 3-shot bursts built in, but while you can continuously reload, they are not removable. Now, it would have been really cool if these were removable sledge fire shells. I think that would have been an interesting value proposition because there are lots of Nerfers out there who really like the sledge fire, and it would have given a little bit of a bridge between Doomlands and Zombie Strike, and that would have been nice from a design perspective, especially since the guy who designs these blasters designs both lines. So it would have been really easy in my mind to make them cross-compatible, and he's like really talented, so. Anyway, the judge is, like I said, heavy and large. It's too large for kids, and adults aren't really into it. Now, there's definitely a specific kind of Nerf player. Maybe we should make a stereotypes video, and I would call that like kind of player like the Juggernaut. And that's the kind of player that just wants to have the biggest, most impractical, largest blaster around. And even our Juggernauts in the SENC were like, I'd rather play with a Mastodon, because the Mastodon is ultimately easier to load and more practical in a war. Like, don't get me wrong, it's cool that it shoots 3-round bursts, but the groupings are very tight, and they're still 50 caliber darts. So that is the Judge. It's humongous, it's expensive, and realistically there should be an age cap on it that completely omits people with single-digit ages because it's just too big for most of them. I do really like the Doomlands line. I think that the Doomlands line has a lot of great blasters in it. Obviously, I think that the Impact Zone blasters are much, much cooler in general, but I am not a big fan of this blaster. It's a big blaster. It needs a big fan. So, I mean, there you have it. That's our number 4. Not too much to say about this. It definitely has some pros, which are addressed in its review, but ultimately this was a very inspired blaster that just did not carry that inspiration onto the field of foamy combat. Let's move on to number 3. Why don't you have a trigger? So, coming in at number 3 is a blaster that could have been really cool if it had loaded in a more practical fashion, if they had taken design elements like putting a tiny nub here to hold this down so that it wasn't flopping around the entire time you're trying to use it, or if it had like some sort of trigger. Now again, the way that this blaster is designed, a trigger is not necessarily super practical. I think that there's definitely a way that you could have put this is a brand new magazine and it's pushing darts out of it. That's funny. I think that there's definitely a way that you could have put the trigger mechanism in such that the trigger actuated the flipper, and there was a lock where it would only push through if these were revving, so that you could get them going really fast and fire while they were revving. So as long as you're going to have the inaccuracy of having to operate your manual mechanism while firing, a little bit of control over when that firing happens would be great, and I think would really open the blaster up to some sort of practicality. Like, don't get me wrong, at some point I'm going to try and field test this blaster because I think that it's got a lot of interesting and unique things about it, but it's just so bad from a design perspective that it's really, really hard for me to understand how some of these choices were made. And I mean, I don't just mean like the physical nature of it not having a trigger and being a manual flywheel blaster, because those are unique things that should have been explored. I mean like the fact that like these bolts should be slack. Like, I mean that there's barbed wire as the magazine, and I address all of this in the formal review, but the more involved some of these cool, quirky, like almost chop shop backyard shed designs in the Zombie Strike line have come, and they've come a long way. Like, they've definitely evolved into this aesthetic over the years. Like, they've also become kind of ridiculous in a way that I feel like at some point somebody should stop and say like, whoa guys, does this even make sense? And like, nobody can justify barbed wire on something as grip tape, but it's a funky blaster. Performance is okay. Like, this would be fine for an indoor war if you are of that opinion. However, like, everybody's gonna hear you coming. Alrighty guys, so coming in at number 2 we have another Zombie Strike blaster, and I meant it. Like, the aesthetic has gotten to a degree that they're like kind of making things just to make things, just to sell things, and these ones are a little funky in that regard. Now the Rev Reaper at least is unique, but it suffers from the exact opposite problem. This is too much of the same, and I know I sound like a Star Wars fan, like it's not close enough to a classic, or it deviated too much from canon, but this honestly is just a worse rehashing of blasters that we've had a dozen times a dozen ways. So this is a crossbow blaster because Walking Dead is cool, and it's a Zombie Strike crossbow blaster. However, it honestly is less exciting than a hammer shot to play with. It is a worse ergonomic, like pseudo primary that only has 5 shots, and those shots are not exceptional in any way. So it shoots micro darts via a revolver, and it has a string, but a stringer it is not. So it's not even using a unique propulsion mechanism. It is a spring-powered pistol that happens to have a super cramped stock that is uncomfortable built onto it, and that's it. If you're wondering why this one is in the box, it's because I also don't have one of these, but I do have the box. So I still have the box, which means that I can talk about it. However, the blaster itself was donated during my Christmas push, which is something that happens to a lot of these, but we saved the box. So unlike the Dreadbolt, where you have to just imagine the blaster, this one you can actually look at and see what it looks like on the shelf so that you can better avoid it in your purchasing of Nerf guns. Alrighty guys, so all of these are pretty expensive and pretty impractical, so what could possibly be worse than them in such a way that it would make our number 1 slot? And our number 1 slot is shared by like 5 blasters. They all have to share, because if I had made an actual top 5 worst Nerf blasters video, these 5 would have just been the list. As bad as all these blasters are, they each have like saving graces, or most of them have unique things about them that make them interesting in some way, either aesthetically or like even just for videos. Now, these on the other hand are just kind of a perfect example of, in my mind, I don't know, like they're definitely neat on one vector, but Another vector that is very strange to me, and I'm going to admit that I have an inherent perspective bias here. So I am a couple centuries and change old at this point, being undead and the like, so these are just well beyond my age range. These are clearly for mortal children. You can tell from the ages, being ages 5 and up, as well as the general depictions of tiny humans on the boxes. Now, these are Nerf Nitro. Now, Nerf Nitro was a concept that almost certainly went something like this. Alrighty team, so we did such a great job and absolutely dominated the boys toys market with Nerf. We've split it into 8 different segments. How can we get even better results and even better performance out of our #1 boys toy brand? We can't. We literally have divided even the already divided lines into some more divided lines between Battle Camo and Impact Zone and Zombie Strike Revenge. I don't know where we go from here, boss. But what about Nerf Rival? You opened up a whole new market segment for older Nerf enthusiasts and made oodles and oodles of sweet, sweet Hasbro money. Well, I mean, I guess we could go younger. Like Rival, we went above, and we could go younger. I just don't know what exactly we would make. That's a great idea. Capture more of the market. Yeah, but again, like, small children don't have the fine motor skills or the understanding of team sports such as is necessary for playing with blaster-type toys. Dang it, Mansley! Don't give me excuses, give me results! And that's how we wound up with a bunch of blasters designed for children that shoot foam cars. They shoot foam cars, guys. They only work on the ground unless you take out the locks, and even if they shoot foam cars. So, those are my pick, personally, for the worst blasters of the year, because I have yet to find a way to do anything super duper practical or interesting or cool with them. Now, I have not explored shell integrations quite yet, and some of the shells are pretty sleek. Like, obviously there is a serious race aesthetic to them that could be very interesting to explore. I have seen one other Nerfer do that, and it actually looked pretty cool, but it was a strife mod, and if you look at the Wall of Fame, there are currently 17 stripes on the Wall of Fame and 16 anything else. That's right, 16 anything else to 17 stripes. I'm tired of making stripes. I need at least a month and a half, 45 days of not having to modify stripes. That would be great. That is what I want out of the beginning of 2018. Thank you guys very much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed my opinion. And again, this is an opinion on the top 5 worst blasters of 2017. Obviously, since it's an opinion, you are welcome to one of your own. It is equally valid, and I would love it if you shared it with me in the comment section down below. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed, and as always, well, not as always, that wouldn't make any sense, but Happy New Year to you guys. Much love, Nerf on, Drac out.